Hello everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Molly and I do book content here on YouTube. My hair is being weird, but it looks okay. It's more just up here. I'm here today to do my 2025 whole year wrap up. I'm not sure. What I might do is I might do the end of the year book tag, the official one, where you go thoroughly into, what the year was like. And if I find that there are questions I've not answered but I want to talk about, I will do that. So before I get into that, let's get into my stats. So, including the DNFs and books that I didn't get to finish in 2025, I started 100 books, but I only read and completed 90 books. And I say only as in like it was less than 100, not that it's a small amount. It's actually a lot. That's a lot more than I thought I would have read in 2025. So 90 books is amazing. That's more than I thought, and is more than my 2026 goals. But you never know. Now that I do know, and I've changed how I do my reading log for 2026, I'm numbering each book that I start, so I will be able to more clearly gauge how I'm doing number-wise. So then hopefully, without having to go through my yearly wrap-up yet, I'll be able to, God willing, have a more accurate representation of how many books to read in 2027. But we'll deal with that when we get there, because we're only just in 2026. But I had 4 DNFs and 4 books that I didn't get to finish in the year of 2025. And I read a mixture of fiction and non-fiction. I'm not sure how many non-fictions. It's less than my fiction. But I did read some. Some of them, and they were a mixture of Christian non-fiction and just general historical non-fiction. So yes, that's kind of all the stats that I want to say. I'm not a big reader of short story collections, but I do have a couple. One I didn't finish, which was the Grimm Brothers fairy tales. And then I have read ones that I did finish, like the Road to Avonlea short story collection. I can't remember what it's called. I don't think it's Road to Avonlea. But, yeah, it's whichever one that one's called. And then also I read the poetry collection. And I read another collection of short stories. When I remember what it's called. I'm not sure, but yeah, I didn't really read very many others. I mostly just read proper either novellas or proper full-blown stories. So yeah, those are my stats that I want to talk about. Let's get into the end of the year book tag, and then by then I'll know if there's anything else I want to mention. There are 22 questions, so let's see how we get on, because I'm on a time crunch in terms of how much space I have in my phone. So let's see how we get on. So question 1, what is your most disappointing read of the year? And, well, like I said, I've had 4 DNFs, so you could say all 4 of them were disappointing, but I think the main disappointing read that I had was the one that I read right at this time last year, 2025, when I was reading Robin Hood by Henry Gilbert. I DNF'd that one, and I'm disappointed because I love Robin Hood, in particular the film, Disney cartoon film. But it was really slow, and the chapters were too long. Like, they weren't like Francine Rivers, 20 pages or whatever. They were like, I'm sure they were like 50 or so pages or something. I can't remember now, it was too long ago. But they were just way too long. I mean, they were episodic chapters, so maybe that's why they were so long, because you're not meant to read them all at once, so to speak. but it was still too much. I was just like, I can't be dealing with this, so I stopped reading it. So I think that's my most disappointing read. In terms of books I actually finished, I don't think there were any that I was really disappointed in. Yeah, no, there weren't any that I was actually disappointed in, not really. So yeah, that's my biggest disappointment. Robin Hood by Henry Gilbert. Question 2, underdog book of the year. I don't really keep track of what's popular and not popular. So it's just whether I enjoy it or not. So I don't really have an underdog. I'm trying to think if there's any that I've read that other people didn't like. Yeah, I don't think that I know of. There's no books glaring at me going, oh yeah, this is a book that a lot of people who I know who've read it did not like. I've not really had that from what I can see, but I also don't keep track, like I said, so it's hard to know. I guess the nearest to underdog is maybe a book series from my childhood that most people, at least on Christian YouTube, wouldn't necessarily know, Christian BookTube. But that's mainly because it's British specific, and also it's just a kids chapter book, so it's not even middle grade, it's like lower than that. And that was the Tiara Club series that I started reading at the end of the year. And that first book was The Princess Charlotte and the Birthday Ball. I'm not going to show any of my books because I can't be bothered having to put them all back. So I'll just show pictures. But I guess that's the nearest to underdog, and what I've read of that series so far, which is only 2 books. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call that an underdog, just more that it's unknown, to be honest, more than anything else. Question 3, a book that was overhyped. And well, I mean, it depends on whether you consider it overhyped in Christian BookTube or in secular BookTube. So there's definitely a book that I think is overhyped, and that is The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore. It's not as spicy, at least so far that I read other books. I did DNF it. It wasn't as spicy as people were making it out to be. Now, does that mean that the other half of the book that I didn't read was quite spicy? I don't know. But I do think it's possible it could have been, because it was ramping up. So, things were getting more serious. And basically, I think it's overhyped, that particular book. I can't speak for the rest of the series. But it's a shame, because I absolutely adore the covers. But I try not to read spice if I can. I was curious about that one, which is why I started it. But yeah, I would say that one's probably the most overhyped book. I don't think it was that good. Especially with how these grown adults were acting, because they were acting like they were, if you've seen my videos, you'll know what I mean. I've said it before, but like they were acting like they somehow forgot that they were in the middle of the street in the main male love interest car, and they were trying to, get it on, shall we say. And I'm like, how do you forget that? Like, it was just annoying. I was like, I can't be dealing with this. No, thank you. I think it's stupid. So yeah, I stopped it. So yeah, I think it's overhyped. Question 4, a book couple or couples of the year. Ooh, that's a hard one. I love Freddie and Grace from the Freddie and Grace mystery series by Pepper Basham. That's a Christian historical mystery / some romance. The first one had more romance than the second. The second is The Cairo Curse, which is the one that I did read this last year in 2025. So I would definitely say it's them. Anyone else? Anne and Gilbert from Anne of Green Gables. I mean, that goes without saying. And also stick with Ellen Montgomery. Valency and her love interest as well. I think I really love them. I can't remember his name, but I remember Valence's name. Yeah, I would say that's it in terms of my most favourites. There's not been any that I didn't like particularly, but yeah, I think those are my favourites. Question 5. Your favourite main character or characters of the year? Anne Shirley, obviously. Grace from Fred and Grace. I think she's your favourite main character as well. Any other favourite main characters? I love, I mean, a lot of you probably know this already. I love Fred and George from the Harry Potter series. They're also favourite. They're not really main characters though, but they're kind of regular, like when you would have a series regular in the TV show, kind of like that, sort of regular. So I'm counting them, okay? And if you don't like it, that's fine, I don't mind. Yeah, I would say that's about it in terms of my most favourites. I mean, I do really like Hercule Poirot from Agatha Christie's Poirot series. I mean, there's definitely been people I've really liked. I don't know about favourites, although I do think Vera Wong from Jessie Sutanto's Vera Wong Cozy Mystery duology / series, because I don't know if she's doing more. Also a favourite. Oh, for favourite couples, also the couple from Darcy Coates' book House of Shadows. Can't remember their names because I read that in September. So I can't remember them, but I really love their romance. And it's very clean, their romance. It is horror though, so scary. But in terms of the romance, there was no spice or open door scenes or anything like that. And it was very swoony, in my opinion. But that's not main character, that's favourite couples. But that's it for main characters, I would say. Done it again. Question 6. A book that surprised you. And I would have to say Treasure of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson, because I was surprised by the fact that I wanted to reread it. Not that I really enjoyed it. I usually have kind of like a blank slate sort of mindset with books. Every book I consider a 5-star prediction because, I want to have that optimism. I want to enjoy what I read. But Tresh surprised me because it was a 6-star read, and I say 6-star mainly because I actually wanted to reread it literally I think the day after I read it. I was missing it and I was like, I want to reread it, which I don't think I've had for any of the other books I read this in 2025. Certainly not in terms of straight away after. Maybe I'd want to reread them at some point later on or something maybe, but in terms of straight away, that is what surprised me. And I think that's it in terms of books that surprised me. I guess it depends on what you consider surprising, really. Maybe in terms of what happens in the book, that could be surprising. So The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. That's my favourite Agatha Christie so far, because the ending and the twist, incredible. So surprising. So yeah, I think that I would say that's about it, to be honest, in terms of truly surprised. Question 7. A new favourite author that you discovered in 2025. Although my question says 2024, but 2025. Favourite new author, Agatha Christie, definitely, because I don't think I read any of her books in 2024. I think I only just started them in 2025. Yeah, Murder of Roger Ackroyd. So definitely her. Favourite authors. I was already a favourite for Francine Rivers. Ellen Montgomery, that is definitely a favourite author that I discovered this last year. And even though I did previously read her books as a kid, I would say Suzanne Collins, because technically I didn't complete the original Hunger Games trilogy, so I read that completely this year. And so yeah, I'm going to count her as a favourite author, new to this year. Mona Award as well. I would say her. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily recommend her to everyone because she's a secular author and she does what kind of thrillery, horror-y sort of books. But I think she might have done others as well. But the books that I specifically read were Bunny and We Love You, Bunny, which are 2 books in at least a 3-book series. But yes, I would say her. Morgan L. Bushy, she's a Christian. I think she does fantasy and maybe sci-fi. I'm not sure, but certainly fantasy, Christian fantasy. She's a new favourite author. I don't want to say Gabrielle Meyer just because, or Gabrielle, sorry. Not because I don't think she'll be a favourite author, but just because I haven't made my mind up as to whether she is a favourite author. I really like her, and obviously I want to continue the Timeless series, but I haven't had that favourite author feeling just yet. But she is a contender. But I think it's just those. Question 8. Happiest read of the year. And, I don't know. Depends what you mean by happy. You mean by topic or by feeling? Because they can be very different things. In terms of happy, I would say the majority of the Anne of Green Gables series, even though they do go through different emotions. And I'm not including the last book, book 8. I wouldn't call that a happy read. But I would say the rest of the series certainly could be. The Georgette Heyer books that I read, in particular the Regency romances, I would say they're generally quite happy reads. They're usually light-hearted, there's usually some funny bits. Even if they're not technically comedy, they certainly have comedy moments. Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan, I would say that's a happy read, even though it tackles convicting situations or mind processes and all of that stuff. I would say it's definitely a happy read because it's very uplifting at the end, because the goal is to get to heaven one day and, become face to face with God. So I would say that's a happy read. And I would also say 2 books that I read from the Tiara Club series by Vivian French. Those books are Princess Charlotte and the Birthday Ball and Princess Katie and the Silver Pony. I would say those are very happy reads because it's just really cute. Because like I said earlier, they are children's chapter books. Not middle grade, they're lower than that. But I would say that. Well, those. Yeah, I'll probably leave it at that, to be honest, for happy reads. Question 9. What is your most frustrating book of the year? The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore. And like I said before, it's mainly that scene where they almost have sex in this car in the middle of the street. Very frustrating because it felt very childish, and honestly, even with younger people, I would say that would be frustrating as well, because I would think that they would have at least some awareness of their surroundings, enough to go, hey, because it's secular. Not that I agree with people having sex outside of marriage, but if you go into, most people are going to find somewhere private. Like, even if they still do it in their car, they'll go find somewhere private, not in the middle of the main street of the village. So yeah, that was my frustrating one. 10. Best adaptation of the year. Ooh. I've not read that many adaptations. The Hunger Games series is one, and Harry Potter one. I did have the Hercule Poirot's Christmas. That had another adaptation that I did watch. There's Pride and Prejudice, but I didn't watch any adaptations, so I'm not going to count that one. And I've not watched any of the Anne of Green Gables film/TV series, so I can't count those. I would say the best one is probably between Hunger Games and Harry Potter. I'll probably say the Hunger Games for now. Harry Potter is close second. And when I say the Hunger Games, I mean the whole 4 films that they did, not just the first one. But then the Harry Potter films that I watched so far, which is between films 1 to 3, are also really good as well. For what they are anyway. I mean, I say the Hunger Games series film series are my best ones, mainly because there's no magic involved, and I still have mixed feelings about that with Harry Potter. 11. What is the longest book you read this year? Oh no, I don't know. It's probably, did I read any Francine Rivers? Because probably her. Also The Conqueror, that was quite a long book, that was around 400 pages. Just give me a minute, I'm gonna have to delete some stuff because I'm coming up to nearly the end of what space I have. So BRB. Ooh, nice, okay. Right, I'm back now, sorting out my storage on my phone. So where did I go up to? Oh yes, the longest book I read in 2025. So I don't know, I don't keep track of it. I know that The Conqueror by Georgette Heyer, that was over 400 pages. Oh yeah, The Ballad of the Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. I remember how many pages that was. That was 517 pages. I think that might be my longest book. There are other books I've read that do come close, but I think that one was my longest. Yeah, so that was, yeah. So Ballad of the Songbirds and Snakes was my longest book at 517 pages. I have read others that are less but close, like around the 400 page mark or a little bit over and stuff. But yeah, that one was my longest read. Question 12 is, what is the shortest book you read in 2025? That will be a novella. Again, I'm not quite sure how long it would have been. No, I think I do know what would have been the shortest books. I'm not sure which one, but it will have been the 2 books I read by Vivian French that I mentioned, the first two books in the Child Club series. Princess Charlotte and the Birthday Ball, and Princess Katie and the Silver Pony. I'm not sure, they're basically around the same amount of pages, but I'm not sure if one of them is a bit longer or not. But they were both less than 100 pages. I think they were like between 70 and 80 odd pages, so it'll have been one of those. Question 13 is your favourite cover or covers of the year. So that's difficult because a lot of the books, when I buy them because I like the cover. Let me think. I love the whole Anne of Green Gables series that I've got, which is, what is the called? I'm just going to have a look who did them. Oh, that was it. The Virago Modern Classics covers of the Anne of Green Gables series. I absolutely adore them. Now, are there other covers of the Anne of Green Gables series that I love? Yes. But these are the ones that I have physically and I have the whole series of, so I'm going to pick those. Gorgeous covers. Gorgeous. And there are others outside of Anne of Green Gables, of course, I promise. The Princess Companion by Melanie Cellier. Now, I don't have a physical copy, so I'll just do the picture. That's a gorgeous cover. Now, I read it on my Kindle. My Kindle is a black and white Kindle, pictures. So, you can tell it looks beautiful in black and white, but in colour, gorgeous. Like the dress she wears, gorgeous. And I love the greens and golds. Beautiful. I love that cover. That's definitely one of my favourites too. Anyway, getting distracted by other things. The Wager, that is another favourite cover. Really cool, because it's showing like a ship on rocky seas. Really cool, very atmospheric cover. I also really like the covers from the Shauna Maguire novella series called Wayward Children series, I think is the name of the series. I only read 3 books from those, but all 3 of them are really beautiful / atmospheric covers. So those. The Blue Castle, the version that I've got, is very beautiful. I don't know if I might just bring it out because I struggled to find a picture of it, and it's just behind me on my chest of drawers, so it's easy to get to. But this cover is gorgeous, and again, I've seen other really beautiful covers of The Blue Castle by Ella Montgomery as well. But this, yeah, it's gorgeous. Gorgeous. The Pumpkin Spice Cafe, even though I DNF'd it, I'm going to have to say that's a favourite cover. Just love it. And the whole series covers, unfortunately. Let's have a look. The Secrets in the Mist, the Sky World, I think is what it's called, duology by Morgan L. Bushy. It's a steampunk fantasy sci-fi, Christian fantasy sci-fi duology. Both of those covers are gorgeous. The first one, Secrets in the Mist, and the second one, which is Blood Secrets. Gorgeous covers. Let's see. The Spell Shot by Sarah Beth Durst. That's a gorgeous cover. And then the last one that's a favourite cover is the book Waiting for Christmas by Lynn Austin. Again, that is a Christian historical romance. That cover is also gorgeous. Definitely another favourite. But there are others I really like as well, but those are my most favourites. 14. A book that you haven't stopped thinking about. And basically, there's 2 for specific books. Now there's a series. Can we guess what it is? Yes, Anne of Green Gables. But for individual books, there's 2. One is The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. I read this around this time last year. I can tell you when I finished it, obviously, because I've written it down. I finished it on the 13th of February, and I'm still thinking about it, January 2026. Fantastic book. What was the question? I haven't stopped thinking about it. Oh my goodness, so good. And then the next one that I haven't been able to stop thinking about is also Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. Not as much. I think that's more of a close second to Roger Ackroyd, but that one. And also The Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. That's another one I think about a lot. Fantastic book. I recommend every Christian reading it. And honestly, rereading it. Now, how often you want to reread it is up to you. But I definitely think it's one to reread. I think it's really good at kind of not really fictionalizing the Bible, but it kind of shows what it's like from our perspective as outside of the Bible, quote unquote, characters, people, real life people. What am I trying to say? It's just really good for every Christian to read, is what I'm trying to say. So I definitely think about that one a lot. No, just those. Okay. Where are we? Oh, here we go. Question 15. What is the cringiest book you've read this year? And again, Pumpkin Spice Cafe. 16. A popular and unpopular book that you loved. Again, I don't really keep up with what's popular. Certainly in terms of books I don't really hear about, I would again say the Vivian French Tiara Club children's book series. I mean, I only read the first 2, but those. At Love's Command by Karen Wittemeyer, which is the first book in the Hangers Horseman Christian historical romance series. I've not really heard anyone who I'm following anyway, in the past couple of years that I've been watching it, Christian BookTube. I've not heard anyone talk about that series. That doesn't mean it's unpopular, I just haven't heard anyone talk about it. But I love that one. Yeah, all the others, because I don't really keep up with what's popular, all the others are either popular because they're classics, like with Anne of Green Gables, for example, or I just don't hear them. And then some of them are ones that I've got from Christian BookTube, like Melanie Cellier's fairy tale retelling series. I've only read the first 3. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call that unpopular though. But yes, I would probably say those. Question 17. What are your highest and lowest Goodreads rated books that you've read this year? I don't keep up with, I don't use Goodreads, and I don't use any other similar websites or apps for book tracking, so I cannot comment. I can give you my own personal ratings, so not including DNS because that's not a rating. My lowest, so I have more than one lowest because they're the same rating. So I've got and they're all 3.5 stars. And I did Night Shift by Stephen King, which is a short story collection that he did. Oh no, there is a 3-star, and that is George's Marvelous Medicine by Roald Dahl. Yeah, it's for kids. It's not one that that particular book anyway, it's certainly not one that translates to adults, personally. It was an alright book. I could definitely see it being something children love. But yeah. But the others for 3.5 stars were Doctor Who Yeti Attack, which was a dramatised audiobook for that book. And then there was Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, but that is subject to change because I do want to read it physically. The Pride and Prejudice was an audiobook, and I do think it's going to be higher, really. But I'm just going by what I wrote down. Then there was Strange Pilgrims by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which again was a short story collection at 3.5. And then that was it. And my highest rated was Trust of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I gave that 6 stars. Question 18. What are your favourite quotes of the year? And I assume they're quotes from books you've read. I don't really keep up with quotes. I'm terrible at it. There are times where there are things people have said or described and I've loved them, but I don't keep track. But the problem is I don't remember it. But there was a quote from Trust of the Emerald Sea to do with deafness and in particular lip reading, which I really appreciated and made me tear up because it told the truth of what it's actually like to lip read. It's not a magical, I understand everything sort of way of communicating, I guess, or reading what people are saying sort of thing. But I can't remember the whole quote. If I can be bothered, I'll look it up and write it down around here when I'm editing, but don't hold your breath. I wouldn't recommend you doing that anyway, but you know what I mean. 19. A book with the most unique concept. Definitely Trust of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson definitely goes for that one, because the sea where she lives and on their planet basically is not like the sea that we know it. It's hard to describe, but it's kind of like, when I'm reading it, I imagine it kind of like a sand sea, but it's not sand. There are different levels of danger for each sea, and they all have different colours and they all do different things. So yeah, it was really interesting. So that was definitely a unique concept. In terms of other books, I would say the Timeless series by Gabrielle Meyer. This is a Christian historical sort of romance, kind of. It's not just romance though. But I would say the Timeless series because that was a very unique concept, because the concept is that the main character or characters are what she calls their characters time crossers. And what they do is they have at least 2 timelines that they live in, and they go through one day in one timeline. Then when they go to sleep, they sleep for the whole night in that timeline, but the character wakes up during that sleeping time in one timeline to live a day in the other timeline. And then they do the same thing and it goes to the other timeline again, and so on and so forth. Which is a really unique concept. I have never heard of that, even in secular, non-Christian books. So that's a very unique concept. I really liked that. Any other unique concepts? Yeah, I wouldn't say there's any other unique concepts, or at least I don't know enough about those genres or whatever to know whether they're unique or not. So yeah, I would just say the ones I've... Question 20. A book that you read that you would reread, and I would say definitely Trust of the Emerald Sea. However, I might want to reread Murder of Roger Ackroyd. Incredible book. But I don't know how well it would transfer now that I already know the twist, but it would be interesting. Any others I would reread? The thing is, I'm not really a big rereader, really. Saying that 2025 had the most rereads I have ever done that I remember in my whole life. Because I reread the first 3 books of the Anne of Green Gables series because I had already read those. I reread Brave by Mishu Andrews, which is a Christian biblical fiction based on King David's wives, and Brave is the first book in the series. There's only 2 at the moment, but I reread that one. Any others I've reread? And then I reread technically only the first 2 books in the Hunger Games trilogy, original trilogy. So I reread those. And then I reread George's Marvelous Medicine because I do remember reading that as a kid. And technically the first 3 Harry Potter books, because I did read them with my dad, or at least I remember reading the second and third one. And I have personally tried to reread the first one and the series. So I'm going to count those, but tentatively, because I didn't really reread them. I would say, in terms of memory of the actual books, it does make it more complicated when you've seen the films, but there are differences, so it's not that difficult to know whether I've reread them or not. So I wouldn't really say they were rereads for the first 3 Harry Potter books, but they're kind of. Any others? Oh, and then like I said, the first 2 books in the Tiara Club series by Vivian French. Because I know I've read some of those books as a kid. I'm not sure which ones. But I recognise them all. So probably all of them. So we'll count the first 2 for that. For 2025 anyway. And that is it. All the others I've not reread. Which wasn't what the question was. But I went on to that. And I wouldn't say any of the others I would really reread. Because I'm not a big rereader really. There are potentials because sometimes there are yearly challenges where you reread something. So like Oshina's Read Christian Romance. I think for 2026 there's another one for rereading. Let me have a look. Yeah. So Oshina has a reread prompt for hers. So there is a potential for me to reread another book this year, but I'm not a big rereader. Question 21. Reading goal reflections and 2026 reading goals. So I've kind of done a little bit of that already. So in 2025, as I said, I read and completed 90 books, which is crazy. I'm not sure what genres I read, but I read quite a mix. I've read a bit of horror, I've read a bit of some classics, mainly children's classics like Anne of Green Gables, but also some other ones like Pride and Prejudice. I've read obviously some historical fiction, mainly historical romance, Christian as well, so Christian historical, biblical, also some Christian fantasy sci-fi. I'm still not sure what to count. Morgan L. Bush's Secrets in the Mist duology, because it's kind of like fantastical but also has the sci-fi elements with the steampunk and the zombies, so it's hard to know. And obviously I read different non-fictions like Christian non-fiction and historical non-fictions. I've read mysteries, I've read a couple of cozy mysteries as well. I've read a couple of thrillers and Christian thrillers. And contemporary romance, I've read a little bit, not very much. I think only one. I think that was the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. Oh, and also Melissa Coslin's The Lost Library, but that's not strictly romance. I would say the romance in that is very minor. The Lost Library by Melissa Coslin is a Christian, I would say, suspense action book. I wouldn't really say thriller, although it does have thrilling elements. And it does have a romance in it, but it's not it's not the main thing, so I kind of put that one. And obviously I read one poetry collection. Yes. And I've read a little bit of fantasy. So I read a lot of genres. I'm very much a eclectic taste when it comes to anything that has a genre, whether that's books, films, TV, music. I like all sorts. I don't limit myself. Not on purpose, anyway. So yeah, I think I did quite well. I usually am quite relaxed on purpose, so then I don't get bogged down by stats or goals or anything like that, because I read because I love to read. I've always been a reader, so I don't want to ruin that. So yeah, and then for 2026, as you know, I've already really done my goals, but just quickly, I want to read 80 books. I want to read more big books, which I am already doing this month, which is cool. And obviously I want to read more series / complete ones that I'm in the middle of, like finishing off the Hunger Games series. Just one more book to go for that one, and then also the Harry Potter series, and I have more books to go with that one, and they are very big, so they count as well. And then also, like I did last year, to just read more classics. Again, I haven't got a particular type of classics, like children's or just general, but I would like to read more. So yeah, I'm quite relaxed with most of my goals. I don't think there's anything else I want to say for those, but the last question 22, is what are you prioritising reading wise in 2026? And I've already said that, so I'll leave that. That goes alongside my goals. But the only thing that I didn't really answer in the new end of the year tag is my favourite books of the year. Now, I'm going to have to include a whole series because I can't just pick one. And as we all know, that is the Anne of Green Gables series by Ellen Montgomery. No one who has been regularly watching my videos will be surprised by that. I mean, throwing my books everywhere. No one's surprised by that. The only person who will be surprised is like someone who doesn't know. But my other favourite, which no one will be surprised about, is Treasure of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. It is my only 6-star read because I wanted to reread it pretty much straight away, which I never get with books. I don't have a most favourite non-fiction. I've enjoyed the non-fictions I've read. A lot of them are just 4 stars, but some of them are 5. And interestingly, I think the majority of the 5 stars are the historical non-fiction books that I read. And those were The Emperor of Rome by Mary Beard. Again, as the title suggests, that's about a selection of Roman emperors throughout quite a big period of time. Also, the book by William J. Webb, Slaves, Women and Homosexuals, exploring hermeneutics of cultural analysis. That's a bit of a thinker, so that one's not for everyone. But I enjoyed reading about quite contentious topics like homosexuality in particular, but also women and slaves as well. That was a 5-star, just like The Emperors of Rome. The Wager by David Gran, that was the one about, in the 1700s there was a expedition somewhere, I can't remember where now, but the Wager was one of the ships that was a part of that expedition. And it's about mutiny, shipwrecks, murder. It was really, it was an incredible read. I gave it 5 stars. Because even though it was non-fiction, it was written narratively, so it felt like you were watching a film, like a dramatised, not really biopic, because you're not really following a specific person, but yeah, it was just amazing. And it had some pictures as well, in between, So yeah, fantastic book. If you like your historical and you like your whole ships and sailors and sort of the 1700s style of ships, which I always love because I love the pirates thing. There's no pirates, technically, although you could call people mutinying pirates, I guess, but they're not officially pirates. But if you enjoy stuff like that, I would definitely recommend it. It's really good. At least ones that I've finished, should I say. No, not really. That was it. In terms of 5 stars, there was a 4-star for Christian fiction, and I would say that was useful. I wouldn't say it's my most favourite, but I enjoyed it enough to give it a 4-star. And if you're interested, that was How to Talk About Jesus Without Looking Like an Idiot by Andy Bannister. Really good. It also, at least the book that I had some sort of like guides at the back, as well as just generally in the book on, like, I think it was questions that you can ask and stuff like that to kind of open a conversation with whoever you're talking to. It was really good. I really liked it. I liked that it actually gave you actual suggestions instead of just general stuff that never really helps. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed that one. But yeah, there's a couple that I've not finished, but that's it. So I can't comment on those. So that's me done with my end of year wrap up, end of the year tag type of thing. I hope you enjoyed seeing all my stats and my answers to the tag questions. How did you do for 2025? Did you reach your goals? Did you not? How are you feeling if you didn't? I hope you're not too hard on yourself, because at the end of the day, it's all about enjoying what you're reading or learning new things or widening your scope of genre even, or, you know, so don't be hard on yourself about not reading enough of a different genre that you wanted to try, or you didn't read the 200 books that you had on your list, or however many you put on. At the end of the day, it's not a race. There is no actual goals for anyone, really. We put these goals on ourselves as a challenge. So please don't be hard on yourselves if you didn't do as well, quote unquote, as you thought you would do or wanted to. But yeah, let me know what were your favourite reads and least favourite reads of 2025. And is there a new genre or a new author that you have tried in 2025 that you really want to read more of in that author's works, or in that particular genre that you tried? Let me know. In terms of genres I would like to try, I'm not counting classics because there are genres within the classic title, I guess. I would say Christian fiction, but again, there's genres within that. I can't even answer my own question. I don't have a particular genre I want to read more of. I think it's more specific authors. Agatha Christie, I want to read more Melanie Cellier. Technically J.K. Rowling, but only because I want to see how I get on with the Harry Potter series. Ellen Montgomery, there's more books that she's written, so I'd like to read them. Yeah, there's all sorts really. Francine Rivers, again, is another one. She's a fantastic Christian fiction author. Absolutely love her books. They're just so rich in the Christian faith, and just everything to do with that. Beautiful. And I would say, at least of the books that I've read, I wouldn't say it's preachy, personally. But I am Christian, so maybe that impacts it. But yeah, certainly her. So yeah, there's all sorts. Genres, I read a lot of different genres, so I would say probably there isn't really any that I particularly want to read more of, just more of everything. So yes, yeah, let me know your answers to my questions, you know, your favourite and not favourites and all of that stuff. And I will see you soon. God bless, and I love you all. Bye.